Just one request, Ritik Wagmare. He has joined Ritik and Tanishk, roll number 89. So while joining, please mention your roll number first and then your name. Otherwise, it becomes difficult to track. Are you able to see the videos which I have shared?
Yes, sir.
Anybody having problem? I hope you have at least seen one or two videos by this time. So we'll discuss something about the carpentry work, some basics of carpentry and its tools. The procedure or the job that you are doing, that is already shown in the video. Some lap joint kind of workpiece is there. So that procedure is already given in the video. I can't discuss that. So I'm sharing my screen. I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll discuss today some brief, some basics about carpentry. What are the terms involved? Then why we are discussing this carpentry for engineering means otherwise you will not come to know about that. Maybe in civil engineering you need something about it, but the process of casting. So we'll be later on discussing sand molding also. That also relates to process of casting. So casting process, at least name you must have heard. So what is the importance of that in terms of or for carpentry, that we'll see. Then some basics of wood, its properties, types of wood, different varieties of wood which are normally used, and basic processes of carpentry and its tools that we'll discuss. Coming to casting, you must be knowing that we see lot many castings actually in everyday life. Say if you have a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, the engine that is there, that engine basically is cast. So the basic cylinder and that arrangement of engine, that is cast from cast iron. If you see a sewing machine, for example, the body of the sewing machine is a casting. If you have a pump in your house, the pump casing is a casting. So there are many things which are used or which are manufactured by the process of casting. Now this process basically is you pour molten metal. Maybe you have seen some nowadays we get those chocolate molds also. So you can melt chocolate and get shapes of chocolate, various shapes of chocolate. You melt it and pour it in a cavity that is called as mold, and then you get a typical shape of the chocolate. So something similar that is done. You melt metal, pour it in some cavity, whatever component you want, you have that cavity shape, and then after solidification you remove that. That process is basically casting. So whether it is sewing machine body or engine cylinder, so that will be cast one. So process remains same. So this is a process of casting. Now for this casting, the cavity that we have, that is called actually a mold. So we say the cavity is called as a mold. In this cavity, you pour metal and that is allowed to solidify. Now for making this mold, you use what is called as a pattern. So for making a mold, you need a pattern or a shape which will create that cavity, and then you use that cavity for casting. Normally we use the process of what is called as sand casting. So the process of making mold, that we'll be discussing later on in the molding shop, or sand molding, that is called as. So you make a cavity in a sand by using sand. So that cavity can be in sand, can be in metal, that is called as a metal mold. Sand molding is a common process. And then for making this mold, you need some shape or some object that is called as a pattern. So the process of making replica of the object which is to be cast. So there are three steps which come. First is pattern making. That pattern is used for making a mold, sand mold. That mold is used for making a casting. After solidifying, that sand mold is broken, sand is removed, and you get the casting. So all conventional casting you get like this. Now there are different other methods also of casting, but this is the sand molding process that we are looking at present. Now this pattern that you make is normally of wood. So the first step of the casting process, that is made of wood. So the machine parts I have mentioned some of these, pump casing, you see valves. If you have a wall, metal wall, that will be made of casting. That material may be brass or steel or whatever you have. It can be machine bed. You see many machines in the industries which are having casting as this component made by casting. Then, as I said, the first step for making pattern, you need wood. 90% of the pattern or industrial patterns are made of wood. That means for 90% of the casting, you have wood as the material for pattern making. So we have to process wood, and that's why we are interested in this woodworking or carpentry work. Apart from that, you see, you have furniture, you have say windows, your doors, frames, and other things which are made of out of wood. So from the engineering perspective, we are interested in doing this woodwork from the point of view of manufacturing something.
Previous slide, please.
Can you name other parts which are made by casting apart from whatever is mentioned? I have told you sewing machine, say body. Then I have also told the pump casings. AC engines I have told, internal cylinder engines, internal combustion engines. So you will find many applications. You can find out whenever you see something, whether it is a casting or it is made by other process. You can look at that. So you are interested in making molds by using patterns, and for that pattern we need wood. So woodworking is important from that aspect. So that's why we are looking at carpentry. And so as a raw material, yes? And if somebody wants to say something, okay. So we want to know some basic of wood. We will not go in much details of that. So basic processes and basic properties of wood and some tools which are associated with that. We know that why we use wood for pattern or for any operation like that. Because it is easy to cut. You don't use metal for making a pattern because metal is difficult to cut. So wood is relatively very easy to cut and give particular shape. You can use some hand tools. On metals, it is difficult to use hand tools. Easy to join by nails or by adhesives. You can easily join wood pieces together. Strength to weight ratio is much relatively higher as compared to metal. For a given weight of the wood, you get good amount of strength. So that is a desirable property. Lightweight and good strength you can get. You know that it is natural material and all over it is available. Anywhere you can get wood of different types actually. Renewable resource because you can grow it. It burns and decays, so that is actually a problem if you want to use as an industrial material, as it is likely to burn. So fire hazard is always going to be there, and it decays because of say some termites and those kinds of insects which are causing it to degrade, and it also decays with moisture. So if you are wanting to use this as engineering material, you have to take care of these aspects of the wood. It is hygroscopic. Any idea what is hygroscopic?
Consume water, absorb means.
It absorbs moisture or water. Very common problem you see if you have wooden door in your house or wooden frames, wooden window frames and door frames, you will find in the rainy season, the doors or windows they get jammed because the moisture absorption will increase the size of the door or the window frame. So change the dimensions with moisture. And these changes are anisotropic, that means they are not same along all directions. This also causes problem when you are going to use this as a material for pattern or some engineering application, because you don't want your machine component to change dimension, and if any change is there, it is better to have change uniform in all directions. So this is also a problem for using engineering material. Quality is not uniform because it is naturally available material. Quality will be varying. You cannot have same strength for every piece of wood that you are having. So these are some limitations of wood, but still, because of the benefit that you have, it is preferably used as a pattern material, and for preventing those decays and absorption of moisture, you apply some coatings, some paint on it, so that it is reasonably protected. There are two types of wood normally you will encounter. One is called as hardwood and one is called as softwood. Now, nothing to do with the hardness as such. It doesn't mean that particular wood is relatively harder and one is softer. It is not like that. Basically, from which kind of trees we obtain, that is classified. So trees which are obtained giving hardwood, these are broad leaves trees, and these are needle-like leaves. Trees having needle-like leaves, the wood is called as softwood. So these trees will shed leaves every season. These are evergreen trees. There is no resinous matter. And here in softwood, we'll have resinous matter. Turpentine, etc., will be obtained from these trees. So as these are hardwood, will not have any resin matter in it. It will be more fire resistant as compared to softwood. Softwood will catch fire easily. Equally strong in axial and transfer direction. So both strength is good in both directions. Here it is strong in axial along the direction in which the fibers or grains are there. Softwood is stronger only in one direction. As I said, fire catching is not easy here, but it is easy in the case of softwood. Some examples you can have, say mahogany or teak wood is basically a hardwood. Deodar, pine, fir, these woods are basically softwoods. So based on the application for which and you are looking at and the availability, you will select particular type of wood. Some examples are shown. Normally we will get wood from the tree trunk which is cut. So this is called a lumber. Tree trunk is cut. Branches are not used. So if you see a tree trunk, normally you will get such profile. You will get some lines like this. You can say annual rings are there. Here on this view, you can see there are some circular rings. These rings basically are indicating the life of the tree. More older is the tree, you will get more such rings. So from that one can judge what is life. Now there are different woods. Now some sample are shown. Mahogany, it is similar to teak wood, which is normally for furniture or house work. We normally prefer this kind of wood. Oak and pine, these are relatively inferior qualities as compared to its life and its strength is concerned. So different varieties of wood are available. In the workshop, when actually you do the job in the workshop, we normally give you teak wood for working on the wood. It lasts longer as compared to other woods. Then if you look at the processes, there are processes which we have discussed in fitting also, like marking. Then you have sawing operation, this you have boring or drilling operation. Then we'll see some tools, holding tools and other tools. So we'll see some of these operations and some of the tools which are used for those kinds of operations. Some of the tools you will see they are as similar as in fitting. Only thing maybe they are relatively lighter or relatively less sharper because you are cutting wood, you are not cutting metal. So marking we know is we mark the dimension when you want to do something on the workpiece. The process for that, as I said in the fitting also, that if you have some workpiece, what you first want to ensure that all the edges are at right angle and all the surfaces are smooth. So when you have a raw material with you, you will see that all sides are made at right angle to one another and all surfaces are smooth so that we can do marking on that. That is called as making it true and square. Then checking the trueness, you check the angles, whether they are really perpendicular or not. Then you mark the dimensions on the job by using, as we have seen in fitting, you use scriber or punch to mark the dimensions. Here also we use those tools. So you can use tri-square. The tri-square, which is a metallic body which is having useful more for fitting rather than carpentry.
Sir,
Carpentry.
previous slide, please, sir.
Previous slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Done, sir.
For marking, you have to do some basic steps. This is true for every operation. So your tri-square, its use is also shown in the animation. You can see this is a tri-square on the top left, which is metal tri-square that is normally used for fitting. Wooden or woodwork tri-square, normally this stock will be of wood. It will be relatively lightweight as compared to fitting shop. Or it can be a brass face. Many times it is wood only. And we know that this angle is 90 degree. How to use that tri-square is shown. You can use the tri-square because now you have piece true and page, and then you mark the line using this marking knife here. Or you can use a scriber to draw a line. This is showing checking. You want to check whether this edge and this edge is at right angle. You can move this tri-square from one end to the other and check if you can see some light from this. If you see say from this side, here for example, and if you see some light coming through this gap, that means the edge is not smooth and it is not right angle. So smoothness of this edge also is indicated. So that can be checked by the tri-square, and it can be used for marking. We mark lines using the tri-square. All these animations are taken from that website which I have mentioned you last time, technologystudent.com. Then you can use a sliding bevel because sometimes you have to mark angle also. So sliding bevel is shown. This edge can be tilted. You can set the required angle and then you can do marking. It is possible. Then there is a marking gauge. Now you can see this is a pointer here. So this pointer will be used for drawing a line. This screw will be used for adjusting this. So this middle piece or stem can be moved back and forth, and then this pointer can be used for marking. This is shown how the length, if you want to mark from the edge, you have something like this. Now you want to mark a line at this distance from this corner, then you adjust that distance here, what is shown here, and then you can mark. So this marking is shown, you can see this face is rubbing against this edge, and then you draw a line using this pointer. Now as this is a wood, a simple nail kind of thing can easily create a line impression. Sorry. Okay. Then you have mortise gauge. What you can see, there are two pointers. Instead of
Previous
one,
slide, please.
previous slide, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you are sliding bevel to draw lines at certain angle. You are marking gauge to draw a single line from one end of the workpiece. Now instead of single line, if you want to draw two parallel lines at one go, shall I move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I want to draw two parallel lines separated by some distance, you can use what is called as a mortise gauge. So one is fixed point, one is adjustable point. So that is what is shown here. You can see. You can adjust this screw. So this pointer can be adjusted. You can lock it in position by this screw here. And then just like a marking gauge, you can use this for marking two lines. You can see here. Two lines are marked here. Now many times you must have seen, if you have seen some carpenter working, if you want to have some slot here, so at what location should be the slot? This kind of mortise gauge is used. So you know that now between these two lines maybe I have to remove some material from that portion. This is a marking tool. Then this already you know divider, inside caliper, outside caliper, that can be used to measure dimensions and transfer dimension. The center point, dot point also we have seen in case of fitting. Center point, the angle is 118 degree that we have seen. Normally used to mark the center point of a hole that you want to make. And dot punch is normally for marking impressions on some line. Punching, that is normally you use a hammer to make a marking. And if you are using a line, you have drawn a line and you want some permanent mark on that, you can use a dot punch to create such points on it. This already we have seen in case of fitting also. So similar method is here. Only thing fitting is it requires more use of punch because that is a metal. Here in wood, because wood is relatively softer, even the impression of that marking gauge will be sufficient enough to remain on the wood. Means impression is quite deep. Then coming to sawing, we know that saw is used for cutting. In case of fitting, which kind of saw was used? Any idea? What is the name of saw in fitting? That was called as hacksaw. So that saw, the principle is similar, but that saw is slightly different than this saw because this is saw for woodwork. Now, there are different varieties of saw. Again, anytime you want to do some cutting or some operation, you have to do marking. Now, in saw cut, one of the important thing, not only in fitting or this, it is also in carpentry. Carpentry more important. Cut should be taken on the waste side. So if I have a workpiece like this, I want to cut this length. So this much is to be used. This much is to be wasted, or it will go as waste. Then your cut should start slightly on this side. That is what is said. Cut should be taken on the waste side because your saw cut will be wider. It will be wide like this. And so if you start exactly on the marking, what will happen? This dimension that you want on the left side, that will not be obtained. You will get lesser dimension. Normally after cutting so this width of cut should be like this. So your end of cut, one end of the saw cut will be coming here. Then only your dimension will be fine. That's why it is said that you slightly start away from your marking toward the waste side, that is side which is not to be used. Now why this happens? Because the saw teeth are set. Even the hacksaw teeth are slightly set. Now what is this setting means? The teeth are not in one line. Say first teeth is slightly towards right, then second teeth will be slightly towards left. So left and right alternately they are arranged. That is called as saw setting, and therefore the cut becomes much more wider than the thickness of the blade that you are using. So saw cut is wider than blade thickness. So if blade thickness is say 1 mm, your saw cut will be more than 1 millimeter because of the setting of the teeth, alternate bending. So we'll see the kind of teeth that you have. There are two types of saw in carpentry normally classified. These are based on the cutting action, based on the shape, based on the application. Some other names are given. One is what is called as a rip saw, used to cut along the grain.
Yes, that is, sir.
Yes.
Previous slide, sir.
Previous slide you want? Okay.
Sir.
So now along the grain means if any wood plank you take or wooden piece you take, grains are oriented in certain direction. The fibers or grain is oriented in one direction. So along the grain, if you want to cut, we use a saw what is called as a rip saw, and the number of teeth are normally 3 to 5 teeth in 1 inch, teeth per inch. So TPI stands for teeth per inch. So this is what is shown. If you are having this length as 1 inch, so in that 1 inch length, normally 3 to 5 teeth will be covered. In case of a rip saw, the shape of the tooth is like this, what is shown in the figure. This angle you can see is 60-degree total, and teeth are slightly like this, which is exactly not vertical here. but they are slightly tilted here. So 8-degree angle on this side, 52-degree angle on this side. So that kind of construction of the teeth is normally there. So the rib saw, if you see, you will see the teeth are like this. Now we can see this is the bottom of the tooth, and alternate teeth are coming on the right side, and these teeth are coming on the left side, slightly bent on the left. That's why your cut will be at least wider to this level. It will be having a width of this level. So this will be your width of cut. Because of the saw setting, it is increasing as compared to the thickness of the blade. So the cut that is taken by rib saw that is shown here, you can see you will get wooden pieces removed like this because of the typical shape of the tooth. Then the other tooth, other saw that is used based on the cutting action, you will see that is called as a cross cut saw. So name tells you that it is coming across the grain. That's why it is called as cross cut. Cutting action is similar to a knife that normally we use in kitchen. Saw setting is more, that means the offset that is on the right and left, that bending is there, that is more as compared to the other saw. The tooth profile is something what is shown here. Actual tooth profile is like this, say angle of 15 and 45. But here, this edge is also not straight. It is slightly bent, which it is having a slope. So one point is slightly above and this point is slightly below in the horizontal plane, if you see that. In the other saw, that is the rib saw, that edge was completely flat. So this is the, you can see now, the tooth shape is like this. This point is at much height than this point. Again, the setting can be seen right and left. Earlier, this tooth shape was like this only, flat shape. Now the cutting action, if you look at, when you start the cut, what will happen because of the geometry of the teeth? The cutting will start at the end points here. Then as you go on moving the saw back and forth, you will get additional material coming in cutting contact, and then finally you will get the complete depth that you want, or the complete this gap will be filled, and this material is removed by the jerk that you are giving while you are moving the saw to and fro. The full bite is taken here. So the cut that you will be getting, or the material will be removed in this form. Removed material will have a shape like this. That is called as a cross cut saw. Then based on the shape of the complete saw, where this frame it's used, you will have some different names for the saws. So there is what is called as a back saw. Back saw normally means saw is pulled backward while cutting. Or sorry, back saw is you have a back attached to the saw. You can see there is a brass back. Blade is supported at this end by some additional protection, you can say, to make it stronger. Operation is shown here. Back saw operation. Now it can be push type or pull type saw, that we'll see later on. Back saw because it is given a backing here. Then there is a coping saw. Show all the figures together that you understand. You can see how the blade is fitted. This frame is slightly flexible. It can be bent or brought inward. Blade is fitted. Then pressure is released. You get blade tightened in the frame. To coping saw, you have a slotted pin. Here you can see in which the blade is fitted. And the operation or use of coping saw is shown now. You will see that this gap here, you have a large gap, because this saw is normally used for cutting some internal profile. You can see the profile that is shown here, that is being cut by coping saw. Now you can remove the blade, but for inserting the blade, you need some hole here. Initially, you have to create a hole, then you insert the blade through the hole, put it in the frame, and then you can use that saw to cut a given profile. So this is for cutting internally. The earlier saw or most of the other saws are from external surfaces you want to cut. This is for internal feature. Some problem is there? Okay, so shall I move ahead?
Sir, please show again rip saw, sir.
Rip saw.
Rip saw.
Okay. Just a minute. So rip saw. This one you want?
Yes, sir.
Here the cut piece of wood is shown. Normally 3 teeth should be in contact. You can see 1 teeth here, 1 tooth here, and 1 tooth here. In a rip saw, generally they say 3 tooth should touch the workpiece. So shall I move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the coping saw is basically for cutting internal feature. Then normally what we say or what we see in most of the shops or most of the carpenter, that is called as a hand saw. It has no backing. Back saw had some metal backing on this side, top side. That is not here. Hand saw, so the blade is slightly flexible. Strength of the blade or stiffness of the blade is relatively less. This can be of push type or pull type. Means whether you are doing cutting while pushing or pulling. Based on that, the name is given. So very widely used or very common saw that is there, hand saw. And if you do actually job in the workshop, you will be required to use hand saw. Then there is some saw which is machine actually. You can see a blade here, small blade, what is called as a jigsaw. And the jigsaw blade is shown here. Profile of the jigsaw blade or the fret saw blade. Teeth are pointing downward, that is shown. Now this jigsaw, this is mounted on a machine actually. And obviously this will be moving continuously. And this blade, across this blade, you will be moving your workpiece and your cutting will be taking place. This is normally used for smaller jobs, smaller workpieces, because this gap here or the blade size is quite small. Machine is small one, and you can cut. This is reciprocating kind of blade, you can say, and across that you move your workpiece. That is called a jigsaw. So when somebody who is doing very fine carpentry work, there you can find this jigsaw. Small components he is making. Then similar saw is there, what is called as a band saw. Maybe if you see the saw mills, some places you will see the wood trunks are brought or wood is brought from the forest and then it is cut. So there, in such shops, you will find this kind of machine that is called as a band saw, because blade, the cutting blade that you are having, saw blade that you are having, is in terms of a band. So this blade is here, and you will have one pulley on this side, one pulley on this side, and on these two, the blade is moving. So these are rotating. So this blade is continuously moving either the upward direction or downward direction. So this is a band, or it is just like a belt that you use in machinery. This is a blade that is used. So this is called as a vertical blade is there, so it is called as vertical band. So again, across this blade, you will be pushing your workpiece. So your workpiece will be kept on the table and will be fed across this blade to the desired to get the desired shape. This is called as a band saw, because the blade is in the form of a band, rubber band we say, so something like that. So endless blade is there. You cut profiles by feeding the wood across that. Whatever profile you want to cut, that can be obtained. It is power driven, not hand. And then you will see circular saws, because the blade is circular. You may have seen in TV or some documentaries, people cutting wood in the forest. They carry with them the circular saws. So while for cutting the tree, that circular saw blade is moved across the trunk and the tree is cut. So same thing can be used. So this can be portable or it can be a fixed machine, that means in the shop floor. Only thing, the blade will be bigger in the shop floor because it is stationary machine, and then you feed the wood across that. If it is portable, you move the saw blade across the wood. Circular saw we say because the blade is circular. In metal cutting also you can have a circular saw. Then some important operation that is done in carpentry work is chiseling. A chisel is used. We have seen marking by that two lines are marked by the Motise gauge. So in such cases, if you want to remove material from that small marking area, you can use what is called as a chisel. Now, based on the geometry of the chisel, you can have different names for that. Motise chisel, bevel, firmer edge, paring chisel, and like that. So if you want to cut, say, I have such piece of wood and I want to remove this material here, then I cannot use a saw. That in that case, a chisel is used. So different shapes are available. This is again a special tool, you can say. Material is removed in the form of lumps. So you hammer it the chisel here, you will be removing some small part of the wood. So like that, you go on removing material one step by step, and you remove the entire material in the given space. You will not get a very good surface finish because you are cutting by removing by parts, maybe few mm in one go. One cutting gauge is there. Cutting gauge is at the bottom. And there are different shapes, as I already said. And what kind of edge you are having, based on that different names are given. Chiseling process is shown here. You can see now. If I want to cut this corner only, I can use a chisel and cut that corner. The locking device is also shown, G clamp, and this is a bench top, that means this is a table. Now, possibility of accident if you are using chisel that is shown. If you don't have a proper clamping arrangement, the workpiece can slip and you can get injured. If your hand is not
Previous slide,
properly
please,
placed.
sir.
Pardon?
Previous slide, sir.
Previous slide. Okay.
Done, sir.
So handling chisel is somewhat risky. So you have to be very careful. You should not injure your hand. Then there is an operation called as planing. That means making a smooth surface basically. Nowadays, most of the carpenter will be reluctant to do planing because they prefer using plywood and that kind of material which is already smooth. They don't have to do planing. But if you have wood from the forest and then you want to do something, you have to do planing. So making the surface flat, smooth surface you want to get, and for that you use what is called as a plane. Jack plane is one of the device, and whatever if you are using a machine, that will be called as a planer. Hand tool will be a plane. Different planes are there. You may have seen with the carpenter various types of planes. The jack plane is the most common. So you have a blade here, you can see. There is a blade which slightly projects below, means below the surface of this plane, the blade is slightly projecting. And when you move the plane over that surface, you can see here, when you are moving it on the surface, because of the blade slightly coming out of the bottom of this plane, some layer of the material is removed. And you get a surface, smooth surface throughout that length. Planing is that way quite difficult operation because manually you are doing, and to get the entire surface flat, if the surface width is more, you will need lot of skill so that your surface becomes flat. Otherwise, what happens is at one place it is more deeper, at one place it is slightly upward, and like that. So level is not maintained. So this planing is done. Then operation of making holes, that is called as boring or drilling. Normally you do. This is hand drill. You may have seen at other places. So you have a drill bit here. You make holes. How that hand drill bit is held, that is by holding device that is called a chuck. And this handle is rotated. So instead of a drilling machine, you have a hand drill. Instead of this shape of the hand drill, if the space is not there, you can have what is called as a ratchet base. So slightly frame is different. Working principle is same. For making hole, you will be doing boring or drilling. Then there is operation of grooving and riveting. So grooving is cutting a channel. Say I have a window frame. I want to put a glass. So on this frame, maybe somewhere on the top surface, I want to cut a channel so that I can fit a glass into it. Some cavity I want to get. That is a grooving operation. You cut a groove. So in that, something is going to fit inside. You must have seen the drawing boards. If you are having a drawing board for engineering drawing, that drawing board is made by joining different pieces of wood planks together. And how they are joined, you just see one piece is having a groove, other piece is having corresponding projection, or that is called a tongue, and they match, or they are fitted like that. So for cutting such a channel, that is called as grooving. So riveting also there, that I said, is for fitting a glass. So grooving or riveting, these are the two operations which basically make a recess or a channel. So for that, the device used is called as a rivet plane if you are using a riveting operation. Then there is a term called as molding. This is not related to casting or not sand molding or any other molding like that. This is different. This is operation of carpentry. Convex or concave shapes you want to give on the wood surface. That process is called as molding here. It is not related to casting process. You need now whatever geometry you want to cut. You want to cut some shape like this or some shape like this. Particular type of cutter, particular shape of cutter will be required, or a tool will be required for getting that particular curvature. If you are using a machine for this purpose, that is called as a spindle molder. Then we'll look at some work holding tools briefly because our time is getting over. Carpentry wise, even in case of fitting, we have seen fitting wise, bench wise. Now this wise is slightly different. This is much longer actually. You can have a T-bar clamp. The shape of the bar, based on that the name is given. This is one movable jaw and one fixed jaw. That this fixed jaw location can be adjusted here or here. This carpentry vise will be mounted on a table. You have a G clamp. This kind of clamp that is used is called a G clamp. So your workpiece will be here. That is showing the use of G clamp. The workpiece is clamped. You can have a sash clamp. Again, you can see the number of holes to adjust the position of the jaws. And then this is clamped. So based on the length of the wood that you are using, you can select particular arrangement for clamping. What operation you want to do also will matter. So these are work holding tools. In fitting, we have
Sir,
seen.
previous slide, please, sir.
Previous slide you want?
Done, sir.
So you have various clamping tools or holding tools. Then apart from that, some other tools which may be required. You know that this is a file. So you can have different types of file, just like in fitting you have flat file, round file, same half round file. One file is called as a rasp. Rasp is basically for removing rough material, means rough cutting. It is also a file. You can have a sander. So it will be having a polished paper at the bottom to finish the surface. You can have a claw hammer. If you want to remove nails from the wood surface, you can have claw hammer. You can have a ball peen hammer. So this is called as a ball peen hammer. The shape of this is treated as a ball peen or called as a ball. So these are some tools which are required and some basic operations in carpentry. I think this is the last slide. Yes. So if you have any doubt on this, please ask. Otherwise, the time is getting over. We'll stop here.
Sir,
Yes.
so could you please send the second video? I was just able to access the fitting video only.
Okay. I think actually I have shared all the 5 together.
No, sir.
This PDF also, sir.
Just the fitting one was shared, sir.
PDF of what?
This video PDF, sir, carpentry regarding.
Okay. I will just check what I have shared. And if PDF is not there, I will add to that. Right?
Sir,
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
sir, if we fit, sir, screws, sir, in wood, sir, that is also, sir, grooving, sir.
That is not growing.
Okay, sir. But cavity is also there, sir. We are making some cavity.
For normally fitting screws in wood, you don't
Yes, sir.
need any hole to be drilled. If it is a very long, deeper screw, you can have a hole first or drilling. Then you can create threads. Because wood is such soft material, you get some special threads or special screws which automatically create threads. Means in the wooden surface, the screw itself creates threads and it gets locked.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then I'll stop here.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
do
sir.
send the video.
Carpentry video.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you checked? Because I have shared, I think, all the 5 videos.